But basketball, you're a pretty good basketball player.
No, I was not.
You didn't think you were?
I was a terrible athlete. All right, I'm a quick learner. This is what I'll give myself credit for. Is I never played basketball at all. I played worked really hard.
When was the first time you played?
8th grade.
Yeah.
And I only played because my foster brother at the time was really good, and and he was popular and played basketball. And I was more of the kid that got good grades, and he was like, "Hey man, help me out with this schoolwork, and I'll teach you basketball." And I'm like, fair enough. And so I have an addictive personality. So when I started playing, it wasn't just like, let me just play just because we agreed to it. It was more like, let me get really, really good at this thing. So I went all out. I played day and night, and with all the mental health issues I had growing up, it was like, that was my thing. If I was upset, I'd go shoot. If I was whatever I would just go shoot. If I wanted to be alone, I would just go shoot. If I was feeling aggressive, I'd bring someone, let's play one-on-one. So I got really good to the point where I made twice this happened in my life. I was the last person picked on the middle school team. And because I made it, I was happy. I tried out for the high school team, and the very last 2 people was me and this guy named Julian at Cruces High. And Heredia at the time was the coach. And he said, there's one spot left, and I knew it wasn't me because Julian was really good. And Patrick had trained with me and stuff, and so we're really excited. And he goes, it's going to be Julian and Will competing for the last spot. And then Patrick was so happy, he like high-fived me, and then, which was weird because like everyone else kind of was like rooting for me because I wasn't as good. So everyone was really excited for me and not so excited for Julian, which he'd been better than me to that point. And I played really hard. We did it, and I never seen anything like this. Is not typically the way they recruit. It was a freshman team, so it wasn't too crazy. But for that week, we went one-on-one through the whole week. And I wish this story ends up nice, but it does not. So at the end of the week, Heredia pulls me out of class, and to give us the decision, and he pulled Julian out too. And so I'm sitting there waiting, and Julian isn't there yet. He's like, hey, whenever he gets here, I'll let you guys know how it went. And this guy's super cool. I don't care if he hears the story. And then so we waited for like 10 minutes. He was like, well, we were going to pick Julian, but he didn't show up. So you made the team, Will.
Yes.
That's how it was. And I was like, cool. It happened so fast that I didn't even get hurt. I was like, what?
I'm on the team. I get a jersey.
I didn't tell anyone, though, that part. I'm like, he picked me out, played him.
It's out there now. But, I mean, and that's a good story. Anyway, but I remember that was one of the first things, because I had just met you right before then.
Is this one mine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right around that time is when I met you. And just barely getting to know you and stuff, right? And trying to figure things out. And I was working for CASA at the time in Advocate. So I was just, my job, my volunteer job was just to go check on you, see how things are going, right? And check and then report to the judge what's going on. So I'm just barely getting to know you. And I remember one of the things you said is I'm going to play basketball this year. And I remember, and then I asked about you playing before, and you're like, no, I never played before, ever. And I was like, in 8th grade, you're going to play for the first time. All right, like, good luck, man. But I thought it was kind of cool that you would do that you would try and put yourself out there, because that's not a lot of kids will do that, right? Mm-hmm. And then a few weeks later, you're like, yeah, I'm on the team. Yeah, I made it. I'm gonna play. Here's when my game is.
See, that one I actually made though. That was the 8th grade year, right? I actually made that one. Yeah. And I technically actually made the other one, right? But then I kept playing after that. I moved to Uniate. I made JV again, and then varsity. And so obviously I worked really hard and I got pretty decent. And at one point, like, took a starter spot. So it was like, you're right. I'm giving myself the least amount of credit because it's funnier. Yeah. But no, I did work hard. And I do think that in a lot of ways, sports, there's something special about sports, right? Because I get asked all the time, like, what works for you? What didn't work? Like, if I'm working with another kid in foster care, what do I do with him? I don't have all the answers, but one of them for sure is put him in sports, right? Because I still did some bad things. I was still a kid, but I did way less of them being in sports. And then being around those people in sports, some of those people are also doing some bad things, so you kind of drift off. But I honestly, you learn camaraderie. You learn what stays in the locker room. You learn respect. You learn trust between brothers.
Well, and then outside of it, you learned work ethic, because you were always dribbling and shooting, constantly. It gave you something to put your energy into when things weren't really going well.
Yeah.
You always had basketball.
100% did. And so I was thinking about this before you even got here. Speaking of sports, so I know that did you do anything besides baseball? I know you played baseball.
A little bit of football.
Did you did you care about the two differently? Did you like both? Like, and when did you have to pick one?
Oh, well, in high school, I just wasn't big enough or fast enough, or I didn't think I was to play football. I loved the aggression of football, though.
What did you play in football position?
Played some quarterback, cornerback on defense, but so I loved the aggression. I loved hitting, just I don't know, just the sheer power of it. I loved that part of it. I was a little kid. I just wasn't big at the time. Yeah. When I graduated high school, I was like at 135, 6'135". So I was thin.
Was that very different than the other kids though? I feel like a lot of the kids were smaller.
It might not have been, but in my head
you felt that way.
In my head, I was too weak. I couldn't too slow, whatever. So baseball, and I loved baseball. I really did. I just everything that you're saying. That's what I thought. I remember I loved baseball so much, and it was hot in Carlsbad where I grew up. 117 in the summer, and every day I was trying to look for someone in the middle of the day. It didn't matter how hot it was to just go out and play ball with me. And I remember I would even 11 and 12-year-olds little league, and I'm riding my bike down to play in the game, and here come the thunder clouds, the summer clouds, and it's gonna rain it out, and it would just crush my whole soul if I couldn't play in a game that day. Like I was like.
It's not like there's indoor options. Yeah. Huh? So it's not like there's indoor options.
No.
So you're kind of relying on the weather.
I mean, it was that important to me. Yeah. Like it was everything. Sports.
I see what you're saying. So you went outside. It's a cloudy day or rainy, and you're like, "This is what?" So what? You had no plan B, right? Like, what am I going to do with my day now?
Yeah.
So you played baseball till when?
High school, like JV. Had a couple of injuries.
Yeah.
Dropped out of high school. Yada, yada, yada. Here we are.
I did the same thing. I guess we relate.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing because I guess my relationship with basketball was a little bit different, but similar, right? We just kind of mentioned some similarities for it. But was it tough for you to stop doing something that you enjoyed so much?
I mean, yes.
And you got hurt, right?
Yeah, some of it was injuries, but like I said, some of it was I ended up just having some problems in high school and didn't stick it out. But yeah, I grew up being, one of the best players in town, all-stars every time, thinking I was one of the best ones, and then get to high school and start struggling a little bit, not just in baseball, but in general.
Yeah.
And then get hurt a little bit, and, it just piles on. So I think it contributed a lot to me, that I ended up dropping out of high school.
Yeah.
I missed it a lot.
Did you? Because I know you were a good student for sure. So what do you think it was more of the sport? If you had to guess, right? I'm not asking if you know. Do you think the sports played a big role in your lack of interest in the educational part?
Looking back, actually, I chose academics at one point over sports, because in our high school, we had 6 periods, and 6 periods with that was athletics. And I chose going to the gifted program. So we took, I wanted to take all the difficult classes, physics and chemistry and calculus, and a couple of years of Spanish and computers, and make sure that I jam myself full of all those classes so I could go to a good university, good college.
So you cared about college, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wanted. I needed to get out. Grew up pretty
regardless
poor.
of sports, you wanted to go to a good college.
Yeah. So looking back, I wish I wouldn't have given up 6-period athletics. I wish I would have played baseball.
I see what you're saying. I thought you were saying 6 periods of athletics.
No,
so there's 6 periods.
Just 1 period of athletics.
The last day, the last class or something, was that like an athletic class?
Yeah.
So, but that says a lot, though. That speaks volumes. It sounds like you actually enjoyed learning stuff. Hey, fun random fact of the day. The Cookie Monster from Sesame Street has a real name, and his name is Sid. Not a lot of people know that. They just started calling him the Cookie Monster because that's what he is. Google it, and if it's true, which it is, come back here and subscribe.